Good morning, my creative friends, and welcome to Painting in Your PJs with Minette. I am Dr. Minette Riordan. I am in my PJs and my favorite cozy hoodie. I am so excited that we're on the edge of fall here. All the trees and the animals think it's fall. Most of the birds have migrated, but the temperatures are still really warm outside here in Loveland, Colorado. Fortunately, the nights and the mornings are starting to have that crispness and coolness. And when I think about fall, I begin to think about slowing down, not overfilling my schedule, really looking for those opportunities to slow down, to indulge in some deep rest. I fell asleep in front of the TV last night, probably for over an hour, and still went to bed and slept a full night. So my body is wanting to slow down and to rest. It's been a very, very busy couple of months. This is going to be a busy month coming up next week. I will only be here on Tuesday as I'll be at a conference on Thursday and Friday. Good morning, beautiful Tori. And so I'm continuing on this theme of how the season of fall can really support us when we remember that we're living according to the seasons. So I'm a little distracted this morning. I don't know about you. I have so many friends who are in Florida, so I'm getting lots of texts and messages this morning from friends saying they're safe. So I'm feeling a lot of deep gratitude and just sending out so much just genuine love and support to all of those that are being impacted, first by Helene and now by Milton, whether you're in North Carolina or Florida or somewhere in between. Please know that my thoughts and my love are with you and your families during this challenging time. It's been very distracting for me. I've definitely been pulled a little bit off my center by watching all of this unfolding. And it reminds me how important it is to make time in this season for what I call deep reflection. Deep reflection is one of the 8 keys of a midlife renaissance that I teach in my year-long group coaching program, Your Creative Renaissance. And so what I want to do today is just think about this idea of deep reflection. How do we create space for deep reflection? How do we go a little bit deeper and get under the surface of some of the different things that we're thinking about and experiencing? And how can we remember, reflect back, and really celebrate our own resilience? I was grabbing a lot of things this morning. I have a huge stack of stuff around me, but one of the things that was on top of my pile was one of my son Connor's beautiful mandalas. And the affirmation with that is, my mind is resilient. And I think when we make time for deep reflection and we slow down the pace of our creative explorations, if you will, it allows us to go a little bit deeper below the surface. And one of the simplest ways to make that happen is to create any season of art as any season, any session of art as a sacred experience. So I always have a candle here on my art table. I lit this last night also during our Sisterhood of Wisdom and Wonder live call, and so enjoyed just creating in silence, in community. It was a really beautiful experience, but there's something about the simple act of lighting a candle, whether I walk into a Catholic church and do that, which I love to do, or whether I do that here in my home, whether I light one candle or create a small altar space in my home. It's really important sometimes to look for what are those little small actions that we can take to bring the sacred into the creative. And I believe the more we bring the sacred into the creative practice, the more beneficial that it can be for us. So, my theme this morning for myself is the theme of deep reflection. I'm going to go ahead and share my camera here. And like I said, I have this, this pile of goodness. A lot of this was still lingering here. Let me zoom back out again. Was still lingering here from our session on Tuesday morning. I so loved the collage that I created on Tuesday. I'm going to move this candle a little further away so that I don't drop paper into it, which I have been known to do. I'm feeling very drawn to my Stabilo Marks All pencil, which is a water-soluble pencil. You can tell I have a couple of these that are down to the nub lying around because I love them. And I'm feeling really drawn to texture this morning. The thing that I forgot to grab was I have a box of dried flowers that I made for my retreat last week, and I wanted to add some of those to this, so that might have to come a little bit later. But I love incorporating, here's some dried flowers from a bouquet, this is Russian sage from my garden. This is some leftover beautiful moss from my June retreat. So I love creating texture on things because it makes them feel a little bit more real, a little bit more personal, a little bit more like it's incorporating the elements of nature. And when I started thinking about what am I feeling drawn to, it's funny because this is a page that I did months ago that has that same feeling of that deeper connection to nature. But this one has really spring energy to it, right? Things are blooming, there's lots of flowers, there's lots of smiling, there's lots of looking towards the future at what's coming. And I love this page. One of these days I'll actually adhere it into my journal. But today I was thinking softer, right? Slowing down. We are also working on our next mythical makeover experience, and this one's going to feature the Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz book, not the movie. They're very different things. And as I was thinking about it yesterday and playing with imagery and the yellow brick road, playing with AI, what appeared was this beautiful version of Glinda the Good Witch. Excuse me. And the pollen is so high here right now. And I love her wise woman energy. And I realize that at this stage of my life, I'm way more like Glenda the Good Witch than I am feeling connected to the story of Dorothy, stepping into my role as wise woman, as guide. And I'm somewhere between Dorothy, the maiden really represents the maiden, and this lovely crone. I'm past the archetypal mother stage. And really, we step into this wise woman space where we have still so much energy, so much to give. I talk a lot about the things that we face during midlife. And this image, I just fell in love with her. So she may become part of this story to remind me to stay connected to my own inner wisdom, which is such a potent part of deep reflection. So I love to start by just sorting through images. I've got some texture here, some butterfly wings, a couple of pairs of butterfly wings. I have from yesterday or from Tuesday, I still have a lot of these seeds and acorns because, think about the squirrels, right? They're burying these seeds to last them through the winter, but some of those seeds will sprout and become trees. So this is an interesting season because it's a time of letting go as well as a time of planting seeds for the coming year. But I knew as soon as I started thinking about this theme that I wanted these deep foresty greens And these are images left from my retreat last week. I'm sure you'll recognize them, Tori. And I've actually, these are in other cards and things that I've created. I love when images reappear in multiple forms. But I have this sense of fall as a threshold and an invitation to cross that threshold and go within. So this really feels kind of like that central image. I've got a bunch of word pages printed out here. I've got some trash apparently. This is an interesting, I played with some of this the other day where I added paint, this sort of earthy gray and these threads. That is not the right color palette. At first I was really drawn to this house, but what I'm feeling drawn to today really is this tree. Or if it's the house, I want that whole house to open up and have a portal behind it. So this feels like it's going to be a really juicy multi-layered page. And again, I pulled out one of Connor's designs here and started thinking about how when I work with the Sacred Circles method, it's a lot about deep reflection. And how could I actually collage a nature mandala from paper to sort of mimic this idea of deep reflection? And again, the affirmation here is my mind is resilient. So as you can see, my thoughts are a little bit all over the place and I don't know where I'm going until I start to slow down. I also have a box of embroidery floss. I'm looking at what's just in front of me on the table. I do have a needle. This is a dull needle, but I'm wondering if, will that go through there? It will. Maybe some slow stitching might feel really good this morning. So when we talk about collage, it can be flat, it can be dimensional, but the most important part of this is to really trust your own intuitive knowing in this autumnal season of release and letting go of what no longer serves you. In a season, an election season, a hurricane season, there is a lot going on around us. And the thing that we can do to support ourselves is really to go within, right? To remember that we are resilient. Oh, those are pretty. So this pad just caught my attention. There's still some sunflowers. Those aren't sunflowers. Well, those are more like sunflowers, but I love those. There's still some flowers blooming here even as fall comes. I was really drawn to this page of green. So I think I'm going to start with piecing together this mandala and maybe see what emerges from there. And I think I want to cut it out. Good morning, Lisa, my friend. Yes, yes, the stranglehold of those habitual icky thoughts, that is so beautiful. And it is an ongoing practice, and it's an active practice, and it's not a practice we can think our way through. So one of the ways that I have really worked on letting go of that is one, intuitive painting, like really painting those thoughts out so I get them out of my body. But that only works to a certain degree. The other thing for me that I have learned to do is when one of those thoughts pops up, that I instantly pause myself and reframe it. In the moment, whether I'm being critical of myself or I find myself judging someone else, I will pause, take a deep breath, and literally just reframe it and send myself love or send someone else love. Very much like the Hawaiian practice of Ho'opono, where we just express love and we don't ask for forgiveness, but we apologize, and it works beautifully to ourselves. And we have to catch ourselves mid thought or immediately post thought, because what happens is if we interrupt the pattern of thought, then we will have that opportunity to shift the thinking, right? To shift the thinking. And we can always find evidence of what's wrong with us, right? We can always find evidence of what's wrong with us. It's much harder sometimes to find evidence when we're in that place of what's right with us. 2, 3, 4, 5. So, what I want to encourage you to do when you find yourself being critical is to look for evidence that the opposite is true, right? So if you're saying, oh, I can't do this, I'm so stupid, I don't know enough, I'm never going to figure this out, then instead reframe it and look at all of your successes and accomplishments. I've done things like this before. Remember that time when your brain needs evidence. So often that critical voice really truly is there simply as a way to, trying to see if I can get 5 petals out of this. I'm not sure. I can get at least 4. That critical voice is often there in order to protect us, to keep us safe. It was formed for a reason so that we don't go off and do crazy things that, that upset our nervous system. I'm looking for, this will work. And I remember one of my friends telling me, and it's such a great activity to do, is to sit down and write out a list of 100 things that you've accomplished and that you're proud of. Okay, that did not work. Let's try it this way, right? And it can be really challenging to come up with a list of 100, right? But sit down and create a list of 100 accomplishments that you're proud of. Talk about really being able to see your own genius and see your own, looking for a different pen. My studio is still a total disaster at the moment. But when you make this list, you'll go, oh wow, I really did do all of that. So many ways to look at ourselves through this lens of deep reflection. And as we reflect backwards, it's so easy to get caught in, there we go, in all the things that have gone wrong in our lives, and we forget to also catalog the things that have gone right. And sometimes they're just moments or glitters. Sometimes they really are accomplishments, right? Getting a PhD from Stanford, it was a big deal. But in the moment when you're in it, you don't see it as a big deal. So pausing to just remind yourself that you're pretty effing amazing. You birthed babies, many of you adopted babies or are beloved aunties to babies, right? Like, that nurturing spirit in you can be turned towards yourself with so much tenderness and care. And to me, that's the benefit of deep reflection, not to dig around in the roots of our trauma, which is needed at times, but we can get lost in those roots. And sometimes we need to go the other direction up into the leaves and branches so that we get reminded of our resilience, of our strength, of the lessons learned. All right, there's my little petals. Yes, seeing the one next to negative next to all the positives. It's so true. All right. I might paint that out or see what I can do to soften up that line there. I used to have a whole set of these pens. Someone recommended them and they're super fun. Okay, but that one apparently is super dirty and I'm making a mess here. All right, I'll figure it out later. But they're, what are they? They're Frixion, I think they're called, and they're erasable. They're by Pilot, and I really like them. The colors are really fun. Okay, I think this beauty is going to get some paint on it in the background, but I'm really loving adding the collage to this. Again, I'm not sure where I'm going, but I'm just trusting the journey here through deep reflection. Maybe taking my, okay, I know I cut out 5 of those little dudes. Where'd you go? There it is. Loving working on this with collage. Ah, I know what I need to do. Oops, I got some pencil on there. Okay, that this is gonna go into the book this way and somehow be that source underneath the rest of the collage that's coming, that there's some magic opening. I'm loving these teardrops here. Some of these shapes, I'm not feeling like I need to fill up all of this, but there's some of this that definitely wants to come into play. Looking to see if there's something in the blue family here. Okay, none of that is calling to me. But I can tell you, oh, maybe it's this pretty green is going to be those teardrop shapes, more green, and somehow this tree and some of these clouds need to be part of this page as it's emerging also. And I think this probably has enough texture in it that I can just nope, this is on cardstock, so it's really thick and it's I think that's why I'm having trouble. It's not wanting to go all the way through to the paper here. Everything is trials and tribulations, right? Even this is part of that deep reflection. It's like, what can I make work here? What can I try next? What feels possible? Like there's no judgments around this worked, that didn't work. There's simply, what about this? And what about that? And we can get so frustrated wanting things to go fast, to be perfect the first time, when what we need most is really to pause, to slow down, to play and experiment. Okay, there we go. That's better. All right, so can I cut a whole bunch of these? I probably can. I'm really loving this bright green. Hello from New Hampshire. Welcome, welcome. Lovely to have you joining us live this morning. Is it Anji? Am I saying that name right? It's a beautiful name. And as I'm sitting here cutting out all of these little tiny pieces, they're still green, and yet that green leaf falls from the tree. They, especially here in Colorado, sometimes they just turn brown and fall. Sometimes they just are green when they fall. Thinking about our crazy Colorado winds. Okay, perfectly imperfect. I love this textured paper. Angie, rebellious 15-year-old, presently 60. Haha, love it. Awesome. Love that. I tend to attract a lot of rebels in my communities for sure. Okay, so this is starting to come together here, and I may just, I'm going to have to make some decisions. All right, it's feeling like I'm going to use this as inspiration, but it's going to get glued right here onto the page. And it feels like it was just that sort of blooming part in the middle that felt important. And maybe one more green to go around the edges, but one something different. Oh, thank you. Oh, that's so fun. I love it when happy coincidences. Actually, I think I want some of these. Some of these clouds feel really good. Okay. All right. Thank you for the inspiration. We're going to start here. I tend to work very intuitively without a lot of planning. And I'm so excited about our upcoming Mythical Makeover experience featuring the Wizard of Oz. And I had shared earlier that as I was playing and experimenting today, I was really feeling into the different characters and playing with the content for this one. This is maybe the third time I've taught the Wizard of Oz, and I can feel the content all shifting and sorting as I think that we need to acknowledge that at this stage of our lives, we're more Glenda than we are Dorothy, although Dorothy still has a lot to teach us. But if we imagined Dorothy at 60, Angie, I'm about to turn 60 in January. Okay, maybe some of these little pine cones down here where it's such a different time of reflection, and we get to a stage where we can't ignore, right, the changes, the movement, the shifts in our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual bodies, right? There's so much that's happening within us, shifts in identity. Who am I today? Who have I been, and how has my journey guided me to this place right here, right now? All right, I'm going to see what I can make happen here. Somehow that pine tree is going to be a part of something, something. I wasn't expecting to create a mandala this morning. I was thinking I was going to end up with another page like the one that I did on Tuesday morning. But here goes. Here goes. And it feels like these little clouds. When I think about fall and Boy, we could use some rain here in Colorado for sure. I love that, Angie. Like that's I'm such a marketing geek, and so I'm giggling because you pretty much like that's my ideal client description. And I love that you've been married 42 years. Like that's a huge celebration right there, on its own, and raising four boys. Amazing, amazing, amazing. And yeah, it's there was a book that came out like in 1989 called The Heroine's Journey, which Maureen Murdoch wrote in response to Joseph Campbell's hero's journey because she asked him, she was a student of his, and she said, "Where are the women on the journey?" And his annoying response was, "Well, they're just there." And she said, "Well, that's not good enough." And she wrote this wonderful book called The Heroine's Journey. And there is a point in each of our journeys where we have that yearning to reconnect with ourselves. Let's see. I'm going to need one more cloud. That yearning to reconnect with ourselves, but especially to reconnect with our creativity. There's a reason why, like it's a normal thing that we all feel this sudden urge to reconnect. So don't judge or wonder where it came from, but know that it's a natural part of the feminine cycle of life. We finally have that brain space that we can consider who we are at this stage of life. What is it that we want? Okay, I don't know where you guys are going yet. They're going to go somewhere, maybe around the bottom of the tree. It's so funny that I am looking at this and it's feeling like this spring energy, and it's also feeling like it's going to get buried under the rest of the collage, almost as if I need a reminder this morning that winter is coming, but the seasons are predictable, right? The seasons, they will be back. We're not stuck in this season of deep reflection and release at all, that we really have to remember that spring will come again. I wonder if I have a big eraser here somewhere, or any eraser. So my studio is going to undergo a huge reorg and cleanup this weekend. So we're putting in a home gym down here in the basement. It's going to require some shifting and moving of things around. That little bit of blue sneaked on there, and I'm like, oh, that's what it needs. This needs to be floating in a pool of blue. And I am excited to clean up and reorganize. Most people think of that as a spring activity. For me, it's part of that sort of like creating my nest for the winter. This is my happy place and the place that I retreat to, the place that I get to invite others to come in and play with me. It is so addictive. That is true. True, true. Okay. So somehow there's going to be a journey that emerges. This is going to flip up. So this is going to need to grow a little bit. I've been just feeling really drawn to these very witchy cauldrons and thinking about what's cooking. In our Sisterhood of Wisdom and Wonder in November, we're going to explore a contemporary version of the story Stone Soup, which very much holds that energy of the magic cauldron and what goes into the soup and how it takes, community to make that perfect pot of soup. So that one feels important here. I love this little bunny that feels very curious, to remember that curiosity is a part of the journey here. So lots of different pieces of this story. I love the look on this bear's face. The bear feels very reflective, so maybe the bear somehow wants to be part of it. This texture definitely, actually maybe the texture is going to be part of this path here. This is my favorite part, just sort of sifting and sorting. Somebody needs these butterfly wings. I think what I'm missing, and which I don't have on hand, is a figurative image of a woman stepping into this energy and this space. I have this cute collage book that my friend Teddy, but they all feel too youthful. And so there's a sense of, I know what it is. It's my Glenda the Good Witch. I knew she was going to come out to play. She's definitely part of the journey. Where did she go? I think maybe she's the guardian of the threshold, right? To remind me that that journey within is so important, that it's safe to travel there, right? It's feeling a little bit like a foresty Oz journey here. And there's the wings. I knew there needed to be wings. I cut some of her hair off yesterday when I was fussy cutting her, so I might need to find her hair. I love the peaceful, she feels, definitely has that fairy godmother energy. And I think the meaning for me in this, as I just reflect on each piece that goes down here, I love that she has those spring yellows that are in my under collage. But I think it's such a good reminder that we don't have to travel alone, that we need our sisters to travel on, that we all do have that fairy godmother watching over us, whatever you call that fairy godmother. For you, it might be God, goddess, nature, universal spirit. We're not alone on our journey. And I think sometimes, especially as smart women who've lived a while and seen a lot, we can get really stuck in lone wolf syndrome, especially if we've moved and we've lost touch with some of those longtime friendships. I think our friendships become more and more important as we age. And I think the thing I learned about friendships is they take work and nurturing. I love being home alone in my studio, and I love people, and I have to find the right balance of time for creative expression and deep reflection, as well as time for deep connection with others as well. I could just sit here and fussy cut all morning. This is one of those meditative activities that I love, very much like slow stitching. Oh, I love her. I don't know, maybe she needs some extra wings. I don't know, maybe the bunny is going to have the wings. But she feels like an important part of the story. that's emerging here. This is definitely going to be one that I need to sit with for a while. Thinking some of this texture is gonna want to be stitched in there. And it feels like this invitation, right? You think about Glenda saying to Dorothy, you had the power all along, right? Because Dorothy is on this quest to get home again. And Glenda says, you had the power all along. You just need to believe. And it feels like for me right now, it's not about finding home in the sense that of the place that I live, but finding a home within myself. How can I be always infinitely more at home within myself? Okay. Not as fussy with this one, but let's get this. This looks like a spruce tree. I love it. I love the blue spruce, are one of my favorites. That feels like I'm looking at that going, it's annoying me. I'm not liking this at all. And I think it's because this feels like a fence, right? Instead of texture. Hi, Jen. Welcome, welcome. Glad you're back. Yeah, and I have been a little less regular than normal lately just because of my own work and travel schedule. I'm here today and I will be here next Tuesday for sure, but not Thursday. I'm being very drawn to bits and pieces of music, almost as if as part of that deep reflection, it's sort of this idea of listening to those deeper rhythms of nature and connecting and discovering my own magic. All right. Are you part of this? I knew there was a reason I didn't glue these down all the way. Oh, we're wanting some music to come in there. Okay. More music paper. I have so much music paper. Some I bought, some people have given me, but then my mom a few years ago, they wallpapered. So my stepdad loves to play the piano and my mom sings and they both just really love music and they wallpapered their upstairs bathroom in music paper. My mom did, and it turned out really beautifully. And of course, she had way more music paper than she needed, so I inherited a big box of music paper. Okay, there's something here about that depth, that song emerging, and now all of a sudden it's feeling like all of these are maybe a second collage or a separate piece of paper that's going to get tipped in so the whole thing opens up to this magic underneath. And now I am going to definitely sense that some of this texture is wanting to come in. What a lovely mandala is unfolding. So I love when the unexpected happens. And again, I knew as soon as I sat down this moment and started just sort of sifting and sorting and thinking about what did I want to create today, that this, I knew it was going to be around the color green. Maybe we're going to have some bits and pieces of that. I'm wondering if I cut these, if we can get, let's see what we can get here. Sometimes we just have to start cutting and playing and again letting that story emerge, trusting the direction that we're being guided. Okay, now it's coming together. Now it's feeling like that bear wants to come in and play and be a part of this story, as if the bear is sitting in contemplation. All right, this is making me feel very joyful. I'm just sort of noticing the feelings here. Feels like maybe the seeds want to come in. Do these acorns want to come back in? No, the acorns aren't quite right. Ah, the snail wants to be here. Such a good reminder to slow down. Starting to come together. Let's see. As usual, let my cup of coffee get cold. I have a nice heater for my coffee cup, and I always forget to put my coffee on it. Yeah, it feels like we got to get our little seeds and start to bring in some of the colors of fall. So again, some of those themes that I'm feeling, deep reflection, slow down, listen to the inner music, trust that spring will come again. And, I'm in this transitional phase between summer and fall. So dreams flowing, but also seeds being planted of what's possible, settling in and listening for my own music, my own story. Aren't they sweet? Yeah, it's from a really sweet collage book that one of the lovely women that came to my retreat last week brought me. Oh, it feels better. Okay, it was feeling a little too green. This bunny really reminds me of this whole idea. So, the last week's retreat was the Wisdom and Wonder Retreat. My online community is called the Sisterhood of Wisdom and Wonder for a reason. Because when we connect to our own inner wisdom, we see things differently. When we remember to look at life through the lens of wonder and curiosity, we get out of the negative, spinny overthinking and we see possibility instead of stuckness. So, two of our greatest gifts in this season of fall, this season of release and rest and deep reflection, is just magic, right? It invites that sense of wonder, right? That just remembering that the seasons change. And I shared at the retreat, I don't know if I've shared on here that, I spent most of my life living in Texas and California and have moved to Colorado. And this is the first place I've lived for an extended period of time. We lived here once before, but much more briefly. That I'm really experiencing the what it's like to live with four seasons and feeling that in my body, feeling that deeper connection in a way that I never have before, and I think is needed as I age, right? I'm looking to recreate those natural seasons and cycles that post menopause and bodies changing, that it's not the cycles aren't the same. And so I'm looking for those different rhythms. All right, this is coming together nicely. I think I'm wanting to get out some matte medium. Okay, I think my bunny needs the butterfly wings. I just feel like an important part of that wisdom and wonder and that curiosity. And it feels like it's at that point where it's time to let it sit, to maybe flip through imagery one more time, see anything else that wants to emerge. Let's see, where'd my tree go? So this is definitely a different story that is emerging in this invitation to the path, to step into that threshold of deep reflection. Feels like a different story, but an important story. And somehow that beautiful spruce tree wants to be on there as well. So again, entering into that space of deep reflection, of quiet, right? I can bring my candle back right into the center of this so it becomes a page that I can return to and I can pause and can really contemplate this idea of letting go, right? Are there things, relationships, or mindsets that I'm ready to release? I love that I have both, uh, an evergreen tree that's not going to lose its leaves, but it's going to shed its pine cones. But as I look at these green leaves that get released, that combination of seeds being planted, release, and trust that this season too will pass and I'll be back into the spirit of play in the springtime, right? And that as long as I stay in the lens and the approach of wisdom and wonder, magic happens in every season. And I'm loving the music as this reminder in this season of deep reflection to really connect to my own inner music. So it's not complete, but it's complete for now. I'm feeling like I want some paint on the page, and I have to go get ready for my 8 o'clock So I'm going to step away from this now. I'm going to let it rest. And I know when I come back and look at it, maybe tomorrow morning, it'll be fun to see what wants to shift and change or unfold. As always, thank you so much for joining me. Wishing you a wonderful day as well. Jen, thank you so much. Always so grateful to those of you that join me live as well as those of you that catch the replay. Thank you for sharing the space and the time. And I want to encourage you to spend some time of your own in sacred deep reflection before we meet again next Tuesday at 7 a.m. Mountain Time. Bye bye, everybody.